Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire.
Hey everybody, welcome to the official podcast of the National Fantasy League. I am your commissioner, Blake, and I am joined today by my assistant to the commissioner, Kyle Fisher.
What's up?
And my lovable loser brother, Matt.
I'm a loser.
I guess he doesn't
Yeah,
love his
you
other
are.
brother, who is also here, named Caleb. Caleb, say
Yes.
Hi.
Hey Caleb.
hi. And I don't want anyone to get confused. Just because you heard Blake's voice first doesn't mean that he's in charge of this. If anything, I would say maybe Matt's in charge, but
I would say I am.
no, I mean, but
I am
I'm
the
really in charge.
symbolic figurehead of this league, so I will take all the credit.
But I
as
mean, I'm the
usual,
biggest
so
loser, and only the biggest losers pay the most attention to fantasy football. So
That's probably true.
So anyway, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Everyone listening to this is probably thinking, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? What is this? So
I am also thinking that.
I will, let's just start by answering some questions. We'll ask questions that we think y'all would ask, and then we'll just take turns answering them. Let's say the first question, how about the obvious, what is this and why are we doing it? You want to start off, Matt?
yeah. So to me, what this is it's basically a fantasy football podcast for specifically you guys for the National Fantasy League. Our goal is just to make you guys better at fantasy football. Not that like you need it at all. I mean, it's pretty competitive year to year, but we just really think this podcast will take the league, to the next level.
Wait, hold on a sec. I don't want to make any of you people better, so maybe I'm out.
I was thinking the exact same thing. His answer does
you,
not.
Matt.
His answer does not stand for my reasons. My reason would be, to, if anything, to make everyone worse by getting inside their heads, trashing them on their terrible decisions, in order to come out ahead. That's my point of doing this.
I'm just here because I'm the commissioner and thought I should be a part of this and kind of babysit you guys and make sure you don't do anything too crazy. And also, I think this will be a good way to keep everyone even more involved than they already are and, give us something to enjoy every week as like a recap or, whatever like that. So
Okay, I think
that's
we
my
got it.
reason.
Next question.
The next thing that we're going to discuss is like how often are we going to do this exactly? So Kyle, how often?
I think the off season is yet to be determined, but maybe once or twice a week during the season, maybe like one recap of previous games early in the week, and then maybe another one before
Like a preview.
Sunday, a pregame thing, or maybe just once a week. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and during the weeks, we're also going to have various segments that will be decided later. But basically, we're going to trash all you guys and all your mistakes. And you don't have a microphone, so you can't do anything about it.
You say that so casually.
Anyway, so I think a good place to start would be kind of recapping last season. So I guess the first question we want to ask is, who won? Because it seems like I won, but I've learned recently that I didn't actually win.
You didn't win?
So who did actually win? Do we know?
I think it was,
One-
it was some guy named Ivan.
Yvonne. That sounds like European or something.
Yvonne,
Ivan Bull.
Yvonne Bielk.
Yes.
Well, he must be really good or just
Oh,
lucky.
Bonjour, Ivan.
Let's see. Toilet bowl. Who won that? Do you have any comment, Caleb? Do you remember?
I do, but I don't want to.
You don't want to say?
It was me.
It was you?
I'm being honest, and I didn't really want it to happen.
Well, we appreciate your honesty. So, anyway, we have some final standings. I guess we can read off.
Yes, number one was Ivan, of course, but really, it was Todd Gurley, let's be honest. Number two was Steven Holman. Number three was Kyle Fisher. Four,
Yay.
Doc Rob, Chris Roberts. Number five, Patrick Mahomes, Blake Roberts. Number six, Mussolini, which was me. 7, Jack. 8, Uncle Brian. 9, Spencer. 10, Shelby. 11, Jake. That was a close one, Jake. And 12 was Caleb.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Steven because I was just looking up the score again in the championship game. He lost
That's a close
by
one.
less than 3 points. That is insane.
It was
ridiculous.
an
for the
interesting
championship.
game to watch. Definitely being out of the contention for the championship.
I
but-
just also want to point out that had I been in the championship game, I scored more than both the first and second place finisher, so I would have won.
My heart
What do you
breaks.
call it when you don't finish first?
Oh, you would know, Blake.
My heart breaks for Steven and Kyle.
My heart breaks for none of you. I feel no sympathy for any of you.
Wow.
So, next question. I think a good thing to talk about, who is the idiot who drafted the best team and then traded away all their players?
That
So,
would be me.
The award for best team, I originally thought would definitely be Blake hands down, but I have some rosters here that I think might be comparable. We'll read off Blake's. You want to read off Blake's and tell them?
Yeah, I got you. So, first round, Todd Gurley. Second, Keenan Allen. Third, Alshon Jeffrey. Fourth, Kareem Hunt. Fifth, Martavis Bryant. Then Doug Martin, Sammy Watkins, Thomas Rawls, Tyler Eifert, Jacquizz Rogers, Samaje Perine, Andy Dalton,
What?
Carson
What?
Palmer,
But,
Jamal Williams, and Mike Williams.
Well, you really only need to hit the
Oh, that
highlights.
was good.
Half of those are just
by the
terrible.
way, Todd Gurley was in the second round, not the first, so I totally stole him.
Oh,
I
really?
think he was back of the second, maybe even top of the third.
Well,
I
either
traded away my
way,
first round picks.
you had a rock solid team, and yeah, if you just hadn't traded Todd Gurley to Evan and then Kareem Hunt to me,
And
then
Hunt to Dad,
you would've
well,
won.
to you, and then to Dad.
Yeah.
Well, we also have some, I think, good contenders in the form of Jack and Uncle Chris and Doc Rob. Jack, I was very surprised. He had LaShawn McCoy, not bad. Michael Thomas, not bad. Devontae Adams and Jarvis Landry. That is
Holy cow.
pretty studly.
Yeah, you may take the cake.
And then Uncle Chris, Doc Rob had he had Melvin Gordon, AJ Green, Travis Kelsey, and Mark Ingram. That's not
pretty
bad
solid.
either. I think I may actually. Who has your vote, Caleb, of best team? Jack from the draft. Jack, your dad, or Blake?
I say Blake.
You think Blake had the best?
Yeah.
I
Why,
think
'cause he had
so
Gurley?
too.
It was pretty good.
I
Todd-
think Jack gets my vote. With
I mean-
Michael Thomas and well, I guess for standard maybe Blake, but man,
Yeah.
Michael
I
Thomas
had
and
two first-round running backs that I took in the second and fourth.
yeah, if
Yeah.
only if it was PPR, because Michael Thomas and Jarvis and Devontae would be like pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, but it wasn't last year.
Very true. And still somehow.
And there's
you
an
managed to-
announcement, by the way, for any of you who don't know, we are doing full point PPR this year against my wishes.
Well,
I wanted to go to half point, but the majority rules, so
I'm glad you brought
I'm
that
a
up.
commissioner. I'm a commissioner of the people.
I'm glad you brought that up because we were planning on talking about that later. So it's okay to
There's a
throw it out
little
there later.
tease.
Anyway, so we can highlight some trades that people either, I guess, if one trade is a good trade for somebody else really screwed up. So we went through some highlights. I think Matt has a couple that he did not like, or maybe did like.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I had some pretty good trades. I had some pretty bad trades. My draft was pretty bad, so I had to make trades to get in the playoffs this year. But my best trades were halfway through the season when I traded my Ravens defense, Justin Tucker, and Amir Abdullah, all for Alvin Kamara. That was one of my favorites because that was before.
Oh my God.
That was before.
That is unreal.
Yeah, that was right before he broke out, and that was before the Ravens and Justin Tucker had a bye week the very next week. So
That's crazy.
yeah, and then the other best trade I had was the one I did with you early on, Blake. It was Joe Mixon and Russell Wilson for Kareem Hunt and Marcus Mariota, which, looking back, Russell Wilson was the number one quarterback.
He was a stud.
Still inconsistent most weeks, especially in the playoffs. I'm sure you can agree, Blake. And then Joe
Yep.
Mixon was definitely short of a stud. But
Yep,
unfortunately,
I thought he was going to be one.
yeah, unfortunately, I traded Kareem Hunt away before he broke out in the very first game and got like 45 points. So I wouldn't even.
Yeah, I think your trade was worse than mine
Uh-huh.
after
Yeah,
that.
I'm going to
so
talk about that trade here in a minute. But what was your best trade, Blake?
I honestly don't remember. I did so many of them.
Yeah, I feel you.
I like literally. I can't even remember
I have a couple.
like any of them being good. I think I traded away Alshon at one point for someone pretty decent
Oh yeah,
because I didn't believe in Alshon after a little bit.
Yeah, that was a great trade.
What did I trade for?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know. I did too many. I'm sorry.
I was just looking through my transactions. There's a couple I forgot about. One horrible one I did with Spencer. I just saw. I totally even forgot about this. Apparently, I picked Adam Thielen up. I think probably off of waivers or something. And oh no. Okay, never mind. It was horrible, but in a bad way for Spencer. Opposite of what I thought. He gave me Adam Thielen, and I gave him Buck Allen. That was pretty bad. And there was one from really early in the season I absolutely loved. I did with Steven. I'm sorry, Steven. He gave me, I'm trying to find it. He gave me Mariota. I had Mariota. I gave him Mariota, and he gave me Wentz and then some. Yeah, which looking back was kind of silly.
The worst trade that I made was probably Melvin Gordon for Amir Abdullah and C.J. Anderson, who I got from Kyle.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, no problem. I had absolutely no running back depth. And
he didn't after the trade either.
Nah. Abdullah did not pan out. C.J. Anderson I was able to trade later to some idiot. I don't even know who it was. Oh, yeah. Right. But anyway, he didn't pan out quite the way we hoped either. And then I traded Alvin Kamara to Steven for Jordan Howard right before he broke out.
Yeah, that sucked.
So yeah, that was pretty bad. You're welcome, Steven. And then I had to trade back for him. It put me on tilt for a while. It was bad.
I want to take this opportunity I feel like we're not utilizing one of our super famous guests here, and Caleb. So Caleb, what is your favorite thing about fantasy football?
Winning.
Winning?
Yeah.
Well, that is pretty fun.
Oh no, actually trading.
Trading is your favorite?
Yes.
You already did a trade this year.
Yes.
You want to tell them about it?
I got my number. I got the number 2 from Kyle here.
Nice.
And
2 overall. I would ask you who you're planning on taking, but I don't think you should tell the whole league because that would be.
You should not.
That would be bad because then they would know your secrets. So don't tell them, okay? Don't
Somebody
tell them.
good.
Oh, yes. I would take someone good there. Yeah, that's
yeah.
a good idea. Anyway, so I think next we wanted to talk about. We wanted to highlight some of the absolute terrible performances people had last year. So now let's go into the worst weekly performances.
Oh boy.
We have
I think
3.
I set a record.
We have 3 we want to talk about. The first, I guess, I think Blake is up. Let me double check. We'll talk about Blake. I think it was week 1, but I can't promise you. It was either week 1 or 2. Blake had Russell Wilson on his team, scored 8 points. He had Joe Mixon with a whopping 2.4 points. C.J. Anderson came in with a strong performance, his best on his team of 8.8. Alshon Jeffrey with a whopping 5.8. Martavis, not even 2, and Gronk had 3.3. All his flex was Doug Baldwin, was in single digits, kicker and defense in single digits. He came to a whopping 45.7 points. Congratulations,
That wasn't
Blake.
even a bad team at all. That's the crazy thing. Everyone just sucked at the same time.
Well, yeah, that week it was a pretty bad team.
Yeah, I would say they were pretty bad.
Yeah, but like with Gronk and Doug Baldwin and Russell Wilson, and he still scored 45, I would have bet anything that they all combined scored more than that. You know?
But they did it.
So, yeah, they did.
Next on our list, we have, I think this was Spencer's team.
Yeah.
It was Spencer's team?
Mhm.
You confident?
Yes.
You want to call it out?
All right. So Spencer
I think this was week 2, by the way.
in week 2 had a whopping 45.5 points, so 0.2 less than Blake.
Narrowly beating him. That was a close one. That was a nail biter.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
The Jaguars defense somehow had -1, and Charles Sims, of course, had -1.1 because he can't hang on to the ball. Or he just ran for -11 yards, either one.
How does a quarterback get net? That is crazy.
All right, Kyle's referring to the
Oops,
next,
I was
the
reading
next
the wrong one.
the next one
Why
up.
don't-
So why don't you take that away?
We actually have the person here who put up this whopping 40.3, which set a season low of a weekly score at least for the regular season, for sure. Caleb, you wanna tell us what happened here? We have your players here.
So, Dak Prescott, I thought would do well. Instead, he got -2 points.
That was a tough matchup.
Yeah.
He had Philly. That was tough.
We didn't know that at the time, though, really.
Yeah, I actually water bet Caleb about this matchup, and he water bet me that if Dak Prescott got less than 10 points, that he would throw water on me.
And I won.
Yes, he did.
But yet he played him, even though he thought he'd get less
Yeah.
than 10 points.
So
Somehow-
who's the real loser here?
Somehow he had Orleans
It's
Darkwa
me.
came in with a solid week of 15. Some other highlights: he had his tight end got 5 yards. Let's see, all of his receivers, including he played one at the flex, combined for less than 10. So that was pretty terrible. His kicker got 0 because he had Mason Crosby, and the Packers literally didn't score a point.
Mm-hmm.
And they should have.
Yes, they should
Yes.
have. Because what's his name? What's that quarterback?
Brett Hundley.
He is so amazing. They should have scored so many points. So, shout out
He's
to
so amazing that they decided to trade for Deshaun Kaiser.
Oh, yeah.
exactly. Shout out to the best week ever.
Oh my
goes to
gosh.
our champion.
Oh, my gosh.
I would he put up. I can't remember what week it was, but he put up. I think it was
It was
3.
toward the
No, it was
end.
week 3. No, it was
Are you
definitely
sure?
week 3.
Okay.
He put up 155.5, which is impressive in itself, but he did that with his quarterback only putting up 7.6 points. I don't even, he could have put up 180 so easily, and that would have been, the
That's
highest I've ever
crazy.
seen. Yeah, he had Cam Newton against New Orleans, who literally only put up 7.6. He had Carlos Hyde
Wow.
over 20, Gurley over 30, Brandon Brooks with 27, Sammy Watkins, he had 22.6 that week. That is insane. And obviously his kicker and defense had
Oh my
over
gosh.
double digits.
Yeah.
So, and Antonio Brown, 17. That's also nice. So,
Matt Bryant
congratulations.
outscored Cam
Evan.
Newton. This is crazy. All right, so now we want to move on, and we want to talk about what's coming up this season. First of all, we had someone leave us.
If only I had a little violin to play.
Yeah, world's
Rest in
smallest
peace,
violin.
Shelby.
Yes.
Goodbye, Shelby.
Your wife has deserted us.
You'll be sorely missed.
But she has not, because she is my co-owner this year.
Uh,
So she really
okay,
just
we'll
made room for
count that
Katie.
as
Right.
half participating.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Right.
Well, actually, probably 0.1 because you're probably gonna do
Truth be
0.9.
told, I was tired of managing 2 teams.
Hey, I'm pretty sure Shelby said she wanted you to trade me your first-round draft pick. So,
Uh-huh.
whenever you want to send that over, I'll accept right away.
I have veto power over her, though.
Oh, does she know that?
She has about as much power as my co-owner as you do as assistant to the commissioner, Kyle.
Anyway, moving on.
Hope she
To
doesn't
take
listen to
Shelby's
this.
place, we have Katie Fisher.
Woo!
Excuse me, Katie Taylor,
K-Tay.
formerly Fisher. For those that don't know who she is,
Woo.
she is
I still think that too, Kyle.
she is my sister and Jake Taylor's wife, who's
Yes.
also in our league. She is Brian Fisher's daughter, who's also in our league. For those
And-
that do not know,
And Emily Fisher's
and cousins
daughter.
of many people,
She is
and
Blake
even,
Roberts' cousin.
and even a nephew to somebody in our league.
She is Emily
Oh, excuse me,
Fisher's
niece.
co-owner.
Not nephew.
You mean niece? Yeah.
She is also my cousin.
Caleb,
My
do
other
you want to
cousin.
welcome Katie to the league? Do you have anything to say to her?
I think.
Are you sure?
I think she should do good this year.
I think she will do too. Although she needs to study up and do her research.
But she's not supposed to.
Yeah. Are you going to beat her?
I hope.
What do you mean you hope? You will beat her.
I will.
She's a girl.
Speaking of which, LaShawn McCoy,
Yeah.
that happened.
So I guess moving on, Blake kind of talked about this earlier. We are now shifting to a PPR league, in case in case you forgot or
Point,
didn't know.
point per reception if you
Yes.
don't know what that means.
So if your receiver...
Every time a receiver running back gets a reception, they get 1 point instead of nothing like last year.
Exactly.
So if they get a reception for 0 yards, that is worth a point. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or can we
Yes.
fact check that? Is it?
Which is why I was
Has
not
been
in favor of
fact-checking.
this, but that's neither here nor there.
But receivers do get a nice little bump, whereas last year they were basically worthless.
And also running backs get a nice little bump. The only positions that don't get a bump are quarterback, kicker, and defense.
But I would argue that receivers get more of a bump than running backs. In most
Yeah,
cases.
because they're the only ones. Not
not
the only
the only.
ones. They are the
Depending
ones
on
that
the
get the
running back,
most
yeah.
receptions per game.
You know, unless you're like some freak like Bell or
David
David
Johnson.
Johnson or something.
David Johnson.
Anyway, oh yeah, I remembered the question I wanted to ask Caleb. Caleb, who would you rather have in the league, Katie or Shelby?
Katie.
Think careful. Are you kidding me? I'm telling Shelby that.
Ooh,
Ooh,
just
starting
have her
fire
listen.
over here. It was getting hot up in here. Would you care to
You're no
explain?
longer her favorite
Have her
brother-in-law.
listen
Yes.
and subscribe.
He's explaining.
In my case, I doubt that Shelby, even if she was in this league still, she would never win the championship ever.
Ooh.
Do you think
You have been
Katie-
called out, Shelby.
Man, there must be a lot of umbrellas in here because it is shady. He's casting that shade.
That is the worst joke I've ever heard.
It sounded better in my head.
Yes. All right. So, in case you guys didn't know the draft order this year, of course, Katie is number 1. Caleb is now number 2. Steven is number 3. Spencer is 4. I started this thing and I don't know where I'm going. Who's 5?
5 is 5. I know this.
Evan?
5 is Evan. 6 is Blake.
Yeah,
7
I'm
is
6.
7 is now Jack. 8 is Brian Fisher. 9 is Matt. 10 is Jake Taylor. 11 is also Matt. He has 2 firsts.
Yeet.
It's lame. 12 is
Kyle.
myself. Post
Loser.
trade.
Loser.
Speaking of trade, I can think of 3 trades that have happened so far in the league. And in case you haven't been in tune with it, you probably want to know what they are.
I can tell you my 2 real quick.
You have 2?
Yeah, I traded Blake my 3rd round.
Oh, yeah,
Anyway,
you did do 2.
so the first one, before we even knew what the draft order was, I traded Dad my 2nd and 4th for his 1st rounder, and that's how I have 2 first rounders. I have 9, which
Two
is
terrible first
my,
rounders.
is my
I
own.
might add.
That's an opinion, Blake. Okay. I can
You
I can
obviously
make
didn't
do.
learn from my mistake last year.
I can make do. No, they were completely different rosters. I just sucked both of them up. It was bad. But anyway, I have 9, which is my own, and 11, which is Dad's. He is now has pick number 14 as his first pick. And I also traded Blake my 3rd rounder, which I believe was 37. Is that right, Blake?
33.
33. Oh gosh, yeah, okay. And I got back a 4th, a 6th, and an 8th rounder. So that's 43, somewhere around 67 and 88, I believe, or 91 or something
I think
like
it was
that.
in the 90s.
Yeah.
Or I
Anyway,
wouldn't have done it.
irrelevant. What is relevant is who won and lost the trade. I will first give my opinion on the first one that he said with the 1st rounder, if that's the one he said first. That's the one I'm talking about.
We know that Matt lost that one. Let's move on.
I disagree. He basically gave up a 2nd and a 4th. Well, for which one was it? 9 or 11?
11.
For 11. Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
His 2nd rounder would have been 14.
Okay, yeah, that's.
He moved up 3 spots and gave up a 4th rounder.
I agree. That Matt straight up lost that one.
Yeah.
The next one with Blake, I actually like for Matt.
Yeah, I
quite a
mean, I
bit.
understand. I just figured that this time of year it's easier, or it's going to be harder to move up closer to the draft.
Pretty hard for you on that one you just did there.
It's going to be pretty easy, yeah. But
Yeah, you
I don't know.
now
I
have
don't
2
really care.
15ths.
So
Third
there's
and
another
2
trade.
15ths.
It was actually a 3-way trade. Okay, see if you can follow this here. I had 2 overall, which Caleb now has. Caleb had 11 and 12, which I now have.
He didn't have 11 and 12. He had
Excuse me.
12 and 13.
Thank you, Blake. He had 12 and
You're
13,
welcome.
which I now have. And Caleb also got an 8th round from Jack. Jack got Caleb's original picks of
Yes,
7
7.
and 18, I think.
Yes.
And he gave up 12 and 13 and his 8th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
So, thoughts? Who's the winner? Who's the loser?
I think Jack definitely won this one just because he moved
I agree.
from 12 to 7, and he did it relatively cheaply because
He did move from 13 to 18.
Yeah, he did. I think that was a smart move by him because moving up in the first round is definitely more of a consequence than moving back in the second. Because to me,
For sure.
everyone in the second round is basically the same, which
I-
is why I don't have any second rounders.
I
I
agree.
slightly
I think-
disagree.
I think that was pretty good for Jack. He did have to throw in an 8th, obviously, because moving up into the first, the same amount you move back in the second, kind of wouldn't make a lot of sense. But what do y'all think about Caleb with 2 overall? Caleb, are you excited?
Yes.
How do
But
you
I
feel?
still think I should be the winner in this.
How do you feel about the trade?
I feel pretty great.
Pretty
I
good.
actually think Kyle is in the best shape right now. I'll say that because he has 2 second rounders, a first rounder, and a third rounder.
That is the nicest thing I can remember you saying to me in the past 2 years.
Yeah, that's the only time I'm gonna say you're in the best shape.
I really.
Oh.
Oh.
Low blow.
That-
Need some ice for that burn?
Yes, I'm very sore.
Typical.
Why did you just stand up?
Ooh.
So Blake, you said you disagreed with my take that everyone's basically the same in the third round. Why?
Second round.
Second round.
Oh,
Keep your facts straight.
I strongly disagree. Everybody's the same in the second round.
Especially the top half of the second.
Well,
I
that's-
like a lot.
Well, yeah,
Bottom
top half and the bottom
I
half.
love the second round. The whole
Okay.
second round I kind of love.
Okay, good to know.
There's maybe a little bit of a black hole in the middle, but everything's going to shift around by August, so
That's
I think
true.
we'll like the second
That's-
round a lot.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that as I was mock drafting in May. And I regret all that time I spent mock drafting in May.
Yep.
Because it's basically a waste, because everything's going to change by the time we draft.
Oh, you form opinions about people though, which I think is helpful.
No,
That's
yeah.
true. You
By
get-
the way,
you
if
get
you guys
lots of
want
help.
if you guys want an easy app to mock draft quickly, if you download the Sleeper Bot app, which is now I think just a sleeper app, they have like draft boards that you can create and go in and mock in like less than 5 minutes, which is awesome.
Yeah, I didn't really want to bring stuff like that up because it also is really helpful and gives you alerts about players or important things about fantasy relevant players.
Yeah, but since we're
Yeah.
making you guys better,
I'm not making anyone better, but I guess we just did.
it gives you the fastest response time
And-
besides tweets.
And it wasn't my choice, by the way.
Sometimes. Yeah,
Anyway, I
we are
think
not repeating that.
the last thing I wanted to touch on, a couple people have, well, not a couple, several people have already changed their team names from last year. So I wanted to highlight what we thought the best team names were for this next season. Matt, do you have a vote?
I think Leonard's Tourette's takes the cake. I mean, that's
Yeah,
just
that's pretty
too good. And the abbreviation, you can't get better than WAP. I mean, that's perfect.
I'll read through the people who've changed their names so far. We have Jared's Golf Balls, Caleb. How do you feel about your team name?
I feel
Pretty
great
good.
about it.
Alfred's Flu, Jake.
Like it.
The Belbonic Plague, Katie. Alex
Pretty
Treacher
good.
Collins, Matt. I just want to ask you, Blake, just real quick. Do you know what that is? Treacher Collins syndrome.
Treacher Collins syndrome? Yeah. They
Okay.
made that movie Wonder was about a kid with Treacher Collins.
Oh
Okay.
gosh, I feel so bad now. I have
Anyway,
to change it.
what?
Why?
You knew what it was.
Because like I didn't know that's what that kid had from like the Wonder movie. I heard that made so many people cry. I heard that it was like really sad. So
If you're not offending someone, you're not doing your job.
Okay, true.
Disagreed.
Let's see. Those are the
I am
same.
gonna change it though, because that seems a little lame.
I named my team after tight end for the Denver Broncos, Jake Butt. I am the prolapsed Jake Butt Holes. Hole, W-H-O-L-E. Anyway, I guess that's about it. Do we have anything else?
Any announcements
Any
we
last
need to
words?
make or anything?
Oh, there's one thing I want to point
have
out.
an announcement.
Go ahead.
We are going to finally do a $5 buy-in for everyone this year, so that I can buy like a $60 Academy gift card. So if you
we need to-
see me and
We need to clarify that you're not buying the $60 Academy gift card for yourself. It is for the winner of the league.
right,
for me,
yes, let's clarify. Yes, disclosure. So anyways, if you want to I'm on Venmo. You can text me if you want to Venmo me, and I'll send you my Venmo information because I do not know it off the top of my head. Actually, I will look it up right now.
Explain
You
what
can Apple-
Venmo is.
It's like PayPal, only you can connect it to your bank account. You don't get charged a fee to send money to other people.
There's also Apple Pay, which is probably easier.
Yeah, Apple Pay Cash. I have that set up.
PayPal.
So if you want to text that to me
Actual cash.
or
check.
pay me in person.
Money order.
Yeah, well, yeah, write me a check or whatever.
Or you
Quote
can
me.
pay someone who can then give it to Blake.
Okay, my Venmo, if you have Venmo, hello, it's getting real staticky.
Anyway, Caleb wanted to say something.
Hello?
Did you want to say something,
Okay,
Caleb?
wait, now it's normal.
Caleb wanted to say something.
Okay, first of all, that sounded really scary. And then second of all, even though Shelby's name was "I'm gonna knock your teeth out," she didn't knock mine out last year, so that's why I think she's.
Wait, didn't you get last?
Shelby being dissed
Wait,
today.
did you win the toilet
When
bowl?
she's out of the country, she's in Belize right now, and you're dissing her.
Yeah, this is the only time we get to.
All right. So my Venmo is, if you want to Venmo me, at capital B Blake Robert Blake hyphen capital R Roberts hyphen 2020. So you can search for me on Venmo and pay me the $5 anytime up to the draft time. Preferably sooner, so I can go ahead and get that, and we can be ready to go for the season. So pay me ASAP.
Coolio, Julio.
Cool beans.
Okay. One last thing I wanted to touch on. This actually just broke today, so I don't even know if all of us know it for sure yet. But it looks like running backs just got a little thinner this year at the top. Looks like LaShawn McCoy may have had friends or closely been associated with Baylor University and also assaults women. Those two will always be linked. You can't have one without the other. So
Yes, it.
my guess
Katie and
is
Jake there.
my guess is he will not play this season. If he's not going to be suspended, he'll probably be cut soon. It looks pretty bad.
Yeah, and as long as we're doing the news, I should probably cover suspensions of other running backs. Like, for instance, Mark Ingram is
We
suspended
probably
for
don't have time on this show to get
4
into
games.
specifics.
4 games
Just doing a
for
review of the season.
performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll just cut
4
Blake out.
games, and then
Okay.
Aaron Jones. It's only a few. Aaron Jones has been suspended for substance abuse for 2 games. So interpret that however you want to. Julian Edelman, he's a wide receiver, has been suspended for 4 games, again due to performance-enhancing drugs. So I don't know what they're putting in the juice, but apparently it's not kosher.
Alrighty, I think we better wrap this up. I think somebody just came here. So that is it for us. Until next time,
All right,
Later.
peace out, homies.
keep sucking.
Hope you enjoyed.